Welcome. I'm Christy Berger, Assistant Director of Social, Emotional, and Behavior Wellness at the Indiana Department of Education. Our multi-tiered systems of support, MTSS team, was able to work with George Batsche from Florida, who has years of experience in implementing MTSS in schools across our country. We are excited to be releasing a new tool called the Indiana Self-Assessment of MTSS Implementation, also known as the SAM. The SAM will be an essential tool for your district or school as it is used to help measure the level of implementation and will provide you all with a baseline. Please stay tuned to hear more from George on how your district or school may use the tool to assess current practices of MTSS.
I'm sure that all of you watching here today, all of the educators watching this particular video, your major concern every day is how well are your students doing, and are your students meeting the standards for Indiana education, and are they growing into good citizens? Well, one of the things that all of us in education want to know is, are the practices, is the instruction, are the procedures that we use, are those things responsible for positive outcomes for students? I know here in Indiana that the implementation of multi-tiered system of supports, which is really a group of highly effective practices like using data to make decisions, figuring out how to have general education instruction, how to intensify that for students with additional needs. All of those practices that you are focusing on implementing in schools are important to student outcomes. One of the things around implementation of multi-tiered system of supports is that we have a significant amount of research evidence that clearly shows that how well these practices that define multi-tiered system of supports, how well they're implemented, is strongly related to student outcomes. Specifically, that means the better we implement, the more fidelity, the more often we use these practices, that students' rates of growth will increase in relation to how much and how well we implement these practices. One of the tools that you have available to you in implementing these practices is the self-assessment of multi-tiered system of supports. I want to emphasize that this self-assessment is not generically MTSS, but it is the 6 practices that define MTSS. So the primary purpose of this tool, we call it the SAM, by the way, the Self-Assessment of Multi-Tiered System of Supports. That tool enables us to measure both the fidelity and the amount of each of these practices that we implement. So at a school level, you can expect that as implementation in these 6 areas increases, you can expect to see an increase in positive outcomes for your students. So this tool can be used to create a baseline. Where are we now? Where are we starting in this process? It will let you focus your areas of implementation. Do we want to focus on leadership, on the multi-tiered system of instructional delivery, on problem solving, on how we use data to improve academic behavior, social emotional instruction, how we're increasing our own capacity to do this, and how well we're communicating and collaborating with each other. So you will focus, based upon your school needs, those areas of implementation. You're not going to implement all of them at once because it's really not possible to do that. So you're going to focus those areas of implementation. You're going to use the SAM to establish your baseline. Where are we now in each of these areas? And then, like you do with progress monitoring, whether that's progress monitoring literacy or math or behavior, you're going to be able to use this tool to evaluate the degree to which your implementation has improved over the course of the year. And by the way, we only can use this tool once or twice a year. Most districts choose to use it at the beginning of the year and at the end of the year. So at the school level, it helps you decide where to start, and it gives you feedback on how well you're doing in those areas that you choose. Also, it will enable you to evaluate your student outcomes in relation to how much of MTSS practices you've implemented. It also has a use at the district level. Districts have a lot of resources to support buildings. Some buildings need more resource than others based upon the demands and the challenges that buildings face and that differentiate one building from another. So a district uses these data to take the school data from the SAM and identify how they are going to allocate resources in their multi-tiered system of school supports. So some schools may just need maintenance. They're doing just fine, and their implementation rates are improving, their student outcomes are looking better, and they need just maintenance support. Some schools may need targeted support. There may be an area, whether that's problem solving or the use of particular kind of data, that they need extra help with to increase implementation. And some schools need a lot of help. And that may be because of the challenges presented by the student population. It could be the challenges presented by the school maybe being a new school, or the school having a lot of turnover. Any of those things that would challenge consistent implementation of any initiative. And the district would want to be able to provide more supports to the schools with the most intense needs and fewer supports to the schools who are doing well. So the district will take two pieces of data primarily. The implementation data from the SAM, how much of these practices are being implemented, and they will look at the student outcome data. And with these two pieces of information, they can provide schools with exactly the amount of supports they need just in time in order to continue implementation and appropriate student outcomes. So the SAM has district uses, it has school uses, but its most important use is that it can give us confidence that the more energy we put into implementation of these practices, the greater outcomes our students and families can expect from the education their students are receiving.